Hi everyone, and welcome to another TFT Masterclass. Today we are going to be breaking the meta and talking about 3 off-meta comps that you can play right now on patch 14.10b that is going to net you some LP, and you're going to be able to play this uncontested, and it's pretty fun. So let's get straight into it. If anyone has any questions, feel free to let me know at the end of the class or in the comment section if you're watching this on YouTube. Let's get straight into it. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about 3 comps, and they're actually all reroll compositions. So the first one is going to be a Zoe Diana Storyweaver reroll. Then we're going to go into a newly discovered Teemo Warden reroll, and then our very last one, it has been around, but now it's a little bit altered and there's specific conditions to play, our Mythic Bard Tahm Kench reroll. So all 3 comps really good. A bit off meta. Normally you just see your like duelists, you see your Mythic Lilias, you see your Syndras in your current game. So these are going to be some comps that you can play uncontested and will hopefully help you do super well into your games. At the very end, we'll do a recap of the class and then a Q&A for anyone who is watching this live. Okay, so getting straight into it, we have our first one is going to be the Zoe Diana Storyweavers reroll. This is going to be a level 7 magic damage burst reroll composition featuring Zoe as our main carry, and then either Diana 3 as our main tank or Annie 2. You'll see the board on the next slide. So the reason why this is good, well, first off, there's been a couple different buffs recently to this composition. So this composition also utilizes Soraka. So we have Soraka damage increase, we have Zoe primary spell, a little bit of a decrease, but her ricochet damage was increased a lot. So overall, still really good buffs. And the reason why this is also really good is Duelist is currently the best comp in the meta. Reason why is they're just able to beat all of these like AoE non-burst comps, at least to Syndra, but this is basically another composition that can help deal with that. Our burst from our Zoe, especially our Zoe 3, can help beat these duelist compositions and kill that Lee Sin before they're able to fully ramp up either their Titans or their duelist stacks. The very last thing to note is, since this is going to be a full magic damage composition, we are going to need Shred, so either a Spark on our Diana / Annie or a Shiv on a backlane carry that is not the Zoe. So let's get into what the board looks like. This is going to be our level 7 reroll board, where our frontline units, Riven, Diana, Annie, and Nico, and our backline we have Zoe Zyra receiving our Kale scroll of ability power, and then Soraka is just going to be our trait bot, giving us Heavenly and Altruist. This is what we're going to look like. For early game, we can tempo with our 3 Storyweaver opener, so playing around like Zyra, Riven, and then Garen, and then either like a like Rek'Sai for Bruiser with a Riven. It doesn't really matter how you play, but early game, if you are angling into this composition, it'll be from an AP opener, and Storyweaver is the easiest to get into it. We are going to start rerolling on level 7 because our main units are, well, actually our main unit is Zoe. Diana 3 is great if possible. However, there are a lot of duelist players, and if the duelist players are playing Wukong, like if they hit Wukong, then they will be adding that Diana on their board. It might be a bit harder to hit, so Diana 3 is going to be optional. If you don't hit Diana 3, then just itemize your Annie instead. But regardless, on level 7, we are going to be needing that Zoe 3 and pairing her with Shojin, Nashers, and a Rabadon's Deathcap. Very last thing is on level 8, we could then add Janna for Dragonlord and Invoker. In the case where you have 2 healthy, the augments, either on like 2-1 or 3-2, which is a really good augment right now, then you can play Janna earlier, and then either play Soraka or Annie on level 8, depending on what you have at the time and who is itemized. So yeah, just reiterating, 2 healthy, extremely good in this comp. Once we have Janna in, there'll be 4 2 healthy stacks, and basically 400 HP for our entire board. Regarding positioning, basically just same side, whatever your main carry and whoever is holding a Spark, or just like your main tank. So make sure that your main tank is not on the opposite side of your main carry unless you're positioning very well and you know that everybody or all of the enemy boards are on that side. That way you don't get wrapped and get your carry killed before your main tank is dead. Really good comp right now, super bursty, a lot of damage, and decent frontline once you're able to hit either your Diana 3 or Annie 2. So definitely give this comp a try. This is how you'll cap it out. Eventually, you'll just drop some of the less valuable units like your Nico, and then play some more legendaries like Wukong, Rakan, and then we can keep the Zyra. Keeping 3 Storyweaver and another Sage actually gives our backline a lot of AP, which is what we need, and it's pretty good. So best in slot augments to go with this comp. 2 healthy, as I mentioned, it just gives you so much HP for your entire board. Jewel Lotus 3 is going to be our best damage pure damage augments because we don't want to be building Jewel Gauntlet, but having the ability to crit is very good. So this way we'll get both Jewel Lotus 3 and Air Rapidons. Learn a spell. Since we were playing Reroll, it will just continue to stack, which is very good. AP. Magic Wand, same thing, just giving us AP and a rod. Technically we need a minimum of 3 rods, 2 for our Rabadons, and then 1 for our Spark. And then if we are able to get even more for Morello, then that is even better. And then the last few are just kind of generic combat augments, except for Shock Treatment, which is very good on 2-1. It gives us that a Shiv, allows us to win streak / tempo into mid game, so we're rather healthy for when we start rerolling. And also the free Shiv, we don't need to build any sparks in that case. And then Unified Resistance, Martyr, and Common Caster are just 3 of the best combat generic augments that will help us out. So a really good comp. If you have an early AP start and you have either like a Shojins or Nashers or just like open rods, you could definitely try angling this composition as long as there's no other Zoe / Zyra rerollers in your game. That's the first one. Very good. Give it a try. Our second one is going to be a new comp that is emerging, is going to be Teemo Warden Reroll. So there's been a couple of different ways, especially on X or Twitter, of trying to figure out what is the best way. There's some like Kobuko chatter, there's some non-Kobuko Teemo Reroll chatter, but it seems that Teemo Warden Reroll is going to be the way to go. So recently Teemo got a spell buff, or spell damage buff, to all levels of his ability. So you see here is actually quite substantial. And remember, this is per spoiled dumpling, or per ability that he casts, so it's actually quite good. This is going to be a level 7 magic damage reroll composition, and this is not burst, this is just going to be DPS. And the way this works is we have a really tanky front line with 4 Warden, and then we just have Teemo outputting consistent DPS, and it's even great because he has backline access as well. This comps works the best if we have the Blighting Jewel artifact, so we could get this either from just like Artifact Anvil start, like Portable Forge, Latent Forge, probably not Latent Forge, it'll be too long for us to know our direction, but Portable Forge or Living Forge. If we get this, and maybe we have an open tier, this will be a comp to angle, or if we start off with Caretaker's Ally, and we are having that Teemo as our units. Last but not least, this is once again another magic damage comp, so we need either a Spark or a Shiv somewhere on our board. So let's get straight into what the board looks like. This is what our board is going to look like on level 7. Basically, it's quite simple. In our front line, we have 4 Wardens, Garen, Nautilus, Amumu, Alawi, and then we will eventually take the Garen out for a set. And then in our backline, we are re-rolling Lux and Teemo. Lux is optional. If you're able to hit this and you have like excess items, then it's perfectly fine. But Teemo is going to be our main carry. Early game, you could tempo early again with our 3 Storyweaver Trickshot opener, but instead of like the AP Storyweaver opener, now we'll be going the Trickshot, so like Sivir Teemo, and then like Garen and Riven, something like this, and then just putting your AP items on your Teemo. And for Teemo best in slot, you definitely need a blue buff. This is a must. If you don't have this, then like Adaptive Helm or Shojin technically work as well, but it's just really not as good. Ideally, we want that Blighting Jewel, as I mentioned, and then our last item can be Gunblade. If we do not have Blighting Jewel, then it's okay to build Nashers or Rabadons instead. These are perfectly fine. In the stats, ideally, you don't put Morello on the Teemo, you just put your healing reduction on Lux. But if you do have a red buff, then it says red buff is a lot better on Teemo than Morello is. But just look at your items, see what your item economy looks like, and then itemize properly based off this. We're going to be re-rolling on level 7 because we want both either Alawi 3 or Mumu 3 along with that Teemo, which is why we won't be re-rolling on level 6. We'll be on level 7 for this, and also it just allows us to fit our board, or at least this board, a lot easier. And this board on level 7, even on 2 stars, is still quite good, at least for stage 4. And we want to ideally be itemizing our Alawi and getting Alawi 3, but if there are a lot of Alawis out in the game and we're able to hit a Mumu, then definitely itemize your Mumu and 3-star him instead. So this is going to be your board. Once again, make sure you have either Spark or Shiv, so either Lux holding your Shiv or Alawi holding your Spark. And then if you're itemizing your Alawi, make sure that Amumu is adjacent, so Amumu is able to cry and heal the adjacent units, so Alawi and Nautilus, and give Amumu a redemption for maximum frontline. This is how you'd capo your board. You just play more Wardens, and then that's it. And if you're not rerolling Lux, then you could just play Lysandra eventually over Lux, and then drop the Sivir for Xayah as your dual carry on level 9. BIS Zoe Augments to play this. Like Ricochet is really good, being able to, it's basically playing like 4 trick shots while only having 2 trick shots in, so it's quite good. Also, it gives you a Teemo, which is pretty good. Caretaker's Ally, if it is the Teemo, Spirit Guardians for our Wardens, Jewel Lotus, and Learn New Spell, basically the same reasoning as why it was good on our Zoe reroll. And then other augments, Warden Crest or Crown allows us to fit 6 Warden a lot easier, and then it's basically a Fawn or a Force of Nature or Tactician's Crown, since we don't have to play either like the Garen or Jax. We just play better units. Portable Forge, in order to get that Blighting Jewel, or Living Forge, this is fine too. Magic Wand for a Rod and AP, and Unified Resistance to give resistance to our front line, which already has a lot of damage reduction, but no bonus resistance from their innate trait. So pretty good comp, I would say pretty situational, but definitely rerollable and definitely playable with the right item starts or augment starts. So that is the Teemo Warden reroll composition. Definitely give it a try. And then our last one for today is going to be Bard Tahm Kench Mythic reroll. Once again, this comp has been along here for a while. It's been here all sets. However, there has been its ups and downs. And now there is with the additions of the artifact items, it has a potential chance to actually be playable. So the conditions to be played is basically either having Wit's End or Forbidden Idol. These are the 2 artifacts that allow this composition to actually be playable. Ideally, you have Wit's End. If I had to choose one, I definitely do Wit's End, and then that way you could play on Bard and play this composition. However, if you do have Forbidden Idol, then you could still angle this comp from pretty good spots, and the Forbidden Idol goes on the Tahm Kench. So the reason why these are good, Wit's End, basically your attacks will deal X bonus damage depending on the stage. Gives you attack speed and magic resist, and then it will also heal the holder for 35% of all magic damage dealt. So it's really good on Bard. Bard wants attack speed. He will be doing some magic damage from his regular ability, but then also dealing magic damage from the Wit's End. And this, along with 2 Rage Blades, will allow Bard to output an insane amount of damage while staying healthy against backline access comps such as Lilia or Morgana. Forbidden Idol is going to be on Tahm Kench, and the reason why this is good, apart from just giving pretty decent stats, resistances, and health, Tahm Kench, when he casts, he will gain a large shield, and Forbidden Idol shields have 50% of their value converted to max health instead, and even better, Tahm Kench's shield scales with his health. So it just continues stacking, and if you have both, you're basically an unkillable duo of like super tanky Tahm Kench and infinite damage scaling Bard. So that's why this comp is good. Let's take a look into what it looks like. So here we go. This is once again going to be on level 7, and we are going to be starting to reroll on level 7 starting on 4-1. Regarding positioning, you want to make sure that Bard is on the opposite side of the enemy main carry, so then you have maximum safety and allow your Bard to stack up your double Rage Blades as much as possible. Once you hit your Bard and your Tahm Kench 3, then you can start pushing levels, capping out and playing more mythics and dropping some of the lower value units. And then we have to remember, you have to have either Wit's End or Forbidden Idol to play this composition, unless like you just have a crazy spot and natural everything with like items and units. I highly recommend that you find your spot on 2-1 first, and then once, let's say you have Portable Forge, you pop it, Wit's End, you have already a Rage Blade, then you're like, okay, I have the conditions, then I can angle this composition. Last but not least, if you have extra items like a Morello or let's say you take Blinding Speed, and that gives you a full red buff, then you can put that on Zoe for healing reduction. More things regarding positioning, make sure that Tahm Kench is on the same side as your Bard, so then you're not getting wrapped, and that the enemy has to get through your really tanky Tahm Kench before it gets over to your Bard. And then regarding Tahm Kench items, Redemption, Forbidden Idol, and then the last one will be lobby dependent and also item dependent. Bramble if it's heavily AD, and Dragon Claw if it's heavily AP. So this is what your level 7 reroll board is going to look like. Once you're able to hit this on level 7, you can start pumping levels as I mentioned, and eventually cap out your board with 7 mythic. If you do have a mythic +1, even better, that allows you to drop a mythic unit such as like Kog'Maw. Invoker doesn't do that much of this composition, and play a better unit instead. BIS Zoe Augments, Portable Forge, or Living Forge is a must. Living Forge is actually quite good in this composition, especially if you hit like, ideally hit like the Wit's End on 2-1. And then when your next portable forge comes, if you're able to get that forbidden idol, then you are in an insane spot for this reroll composition. If not, just portable forge 2-1, and then if you hit like Wit's End, you're fine with that as well. Pumping up is very good early, being able to get that attack speed. I would say it's pretty tough because both of these are very good augments for this composition. However, they're both pretty like 2-1 augments. So in this case, it would have to be like a Lilia portal where you have like 2 different types of augments on stage 2. But regardless, Mythic Crest or Crown, as I mentioned, Blinding Speed gives you that full Rage Blade, gives you another bow for half Ginsu's, and then a red buff to put on like your Zoe mid game for healing reduction. And then we have a lot of combat augments that help us out. Best Friends giving us attack speed and armor, to the things that we really need. Remember, Mythic gives us a lot of HP but no resistances, so being able to get that resistance from Best Friends or even like Unified is really good, and that creates more effective health for our units. Comiccaster, Martyr, Component Buffet, because we really need best in slot for our backline. This is a specific scenario where we can't just have like subpar items on your main carry. We need to have Rage Blade, Wit's End on the Bard, or else he will not be able to perform and output enough damage. Partial Ascension, this is a stall comp. There's no burst here, so being able to stall for 15 seconds and then allowing Ascension to take over and basically just doing an insane amount of damage. And then very last one, 3 is a crowd. I would say this is one of the only comps that utilizes this augment well, because if we see here, we have a lot of 3s of crowd value, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so that has been everything for today. I'll quickly sum everything up and then we'll go into Q&A. So today we talked about 3 off-meta compositions that you could play on 14.10b to play uncontested and still do well in your games. The 3 are going to be Zoe Diana Storyweaver reroll, AP burst composition, Teemo Warden reroll, and AP like AoE DPS backline access with really tanky frontline reroll comp. And then our very last one was Bard Tahm Kench, where we are getting a specific artifact item early and angling towards this comp once we have that direction. So that has been everything for today. We're going to now hop into a Q&A for those who are watching this live. If you're watching this on YouTube, definitely make sure to join the Discord channel to join the classes. And that's thank you so much for watching. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.